MMA YouTube channel, and in today's video I got a short little quick one for y'all, and it is the matchups to make next after UFC 324. We're gonna look at some of the winners, some of the losers, and I mainly picked the fighters where the options are pretty obvious and or they're moving in a certain direction and a certain matchup makes sense. I didn't get to everybody on the card. I didn't get to a lot of the losers. You know, like Josh Hokett I was going to do, but it's heavyweight. It's like they can do anything. That stuff's weird. Bantamweight's pretty booked up right now, so we'll probably need to wait a little bit for a Song Yadong fight opening to see who kind of is ascending and whatnot. But I got the big names on here. I think most of them are pretty obvious, but I think also some of them are interesting and maybe a hotter take than what some people may give you on this platform or on any platform necessarily. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Justin Gaethje, it's obvious. It's Ilia Topuria. And what I'm guessing, man, this is going to be the White House pay-per-view or the White House numbered card. I got to get used to that. Arturo! I'm a slap, or whatever Connor says. This is going to be your main event at the White House, okay? American interim champ Justin Gaethje, fan favorite, one of the most popular UFC fighters of all time. Pretty mainstream as well, especially for huge legacy guys, barring Conor McGregor. Even though Justin Gaethje's probably like a top 25, top 20 fighter of all time, you're still not going that mainstream. But with the performances that Justin Gaethje has had, threw it back old school with a nice little slobber knocker slugfest with Patty this past Saturday. They want him on this card, and it worked out perfectly for the UFC that he looked pretty solid, especially on the feet, throwing heaters. And Ilia Topuria, I'm guessing maybe another month or two with the court proceedings and such, and then that gives him a good amount of time to train, about 3 to 4 months. Lines up perfectly with, I believe, the June 14th date of the White House card. Early prediction, Ilia sleeps Justin in under 3 rounds. I am more excited for this fight, though, seeing Justin, especially against Patty, going out there and just throwing heat and throwing caution to the wind. He may catch Ilia in some of these exchanges. You know, you never know. The dude, he not only does he throw the caution to the wind, we have seen him be a little more tactical and brutal. I mean, even if you're getting tactical Gaethje, you're getting brutal fights. You're getting hard punches thrown, heat thrown. And, yeah, I'm more excited for this fight now. I was hoping Patty won. I like Patty. No hate towards Gaethje. I like Gaethje a lot. And Patty was the younger guy whatsoever. You know, all that stuff. Don't know why I chose the word whatsoever. That made no sense. Nonetheless, though, this is a solid fight. But Ilia, with his boxing skills, I would say he's levels above in the grappling game compared to Gaethje as well. How slick he is, I just don't see him not countering or just jabbing Justin Gaethje's nose off and finding a finish in under 3 rounds, and that's being generous. I just don't see it. However, if this is the main event of the White House, it no matter what you think about this fight, it's gonna be good, and it most likely ends in a finish with these two guys stepping into the octagon. And it's good for Topuria, another great name to add to the resume if he was to get the job done, which I imagine he's going to be at minimum a plus 300 or minus 300 favorite or more. He's just got the skills, man. He's that guy at lightweight. He's that guy in the UFC, ascending star in the sport. And if he makes a stamp against Justin Gaethje, puts his lights out like I think he will, that will be a huge moment, especially at the White House. It's going to be a big UFC event. And, you know, just like the Patty Gaethje fight, even though Gaethje still, he's the interim belt holder, but when all things are said and done with Max and Charles fighting coming up, and we still got Arman Sarukian waiting in the wings, he's still not the most deserving. However, it gives an American on the headliner against Topuria. Gaethje's a legend. It will be a certified great fight before they ever even step foot in the octagon, all right? That's what matters, and especially on an event like this, I bet Dana is licking his chops, because let's be honest, even if somehow Patty maybe edged out one of those rounds against Gaethje and got the decision nod and whatnot, matchup-wise, Topuria destroys Patty, especially on the feet. With that chin up in the air like that, there's just no way Patty makes it out of one round probably. And while Patty's a great grappler, he's not the best takedown guy, and I would have never seen him getting Topuria to the ground in any circumstance. But with Gaethje, you're going to get a more technical guy on the feet, even though he loves to throw caution to the wind. The highlight himself, Gaethje's, all right? But it's a phenomenal fight, and I will be excited for it, even though I think I said leading up to this fight, I wouldn't be that excited if it's Gaethje Topuria. However, Gaethje impressed me, even though I think he's a bit out of his prime. Still a top 5 lightweight, obviously, in the UFC. It's going to be a good fight. And then it also probably an easy win for Topuria, so that sets up a greater chance for us getting to see Topuria and Makhachev possibly. That dwindles each passing second that the globe turns around its axis, that fight. Its axis. My apologies. But, and then after this, probably Topuria, Sarukian, because Sarukian most likely beats Holloway or Oliveira. I don't know. That would suck, though, if Topuria ended up having to fight Oliveira or Holloway again. We got Benoit coming up on the rankings, though, fighting Dan Hooker this upcoming weekend. But I don't know. I could see, if Sarukian drops a fight and he don't get a title shot around when this fight's finished or before it and whatnot, Topuria could retire. Or maybe he does really make that move up to the welterweight division. But, Topuria is one of those guys, he's unpredictable. Who knows? Maybe he just drops the belt. Maybe this court proceeding goes way longer than they think. And Gaethje becomes the freaking undisputed title holder, which would be insane. It'd be insane to see what happens with that. I thought I'd just throw that in there because, like I said, Topuria is very unpredictable. He's got that superstar edge to him. You never know kind of what of these decisions he's going to make. He may just drop the belt and chase Makhachev. Maybe take a fight at welterweight to get to Makhachev. You never know with this guy. I doubt that happens. I bet the UFC would slow the horses on that one for sure. But Topuria, he's like us. He's like us in this. He's the alpha male. He could assert dominance on Dana White and get his way, or he seems kind of like a petty boy too, and he would maybe just walk away, which I would hate that. But I'm just throwing out these scenarios because it's interesting and we're talking. But this is the obvious fight to make next, and it's a certified hood classic. You got to know that for a fact, Jack. Moving on. Patty the Batty. What do we do with you, Batty? Patty, while I was impressed in moments against his fight with Gaethje, especially on the feet, showed that he does have the chops to be on the feet with a guy like that, even though should have grappled early, whatnot. Barring all that, awesome performance. Scousers do, in fact, not get knocked out, man. I kept thinking at some point he's just going to get TKO'd. He didn't, though. And I think there's two very interesting matchups, and this is how I see it playing out. Whoops. It's Dan Hooker or Benoit Saint Denis. One way or another. Patty, take bare minimum 6 months off. Took a lot of damage. Work on your craft a little bit. Heal up. And then you got a fight. A very winnable fight against either of these guys waiting for you. And you're a superstar, dude. So you're probably getting the winner, and Patty is ranked above both of these guys, coming off a title fight. Still a big fight for either of these guys that win. Most likely, I'll have a video coming out, I believe tomorrow. My predictions will be out for UFC 325, taking place this Saturday. I think everybody is going with Benoit Saint Denis. That's a winnable fight for Patty. It is. Benoit, out of the lightweight divisions, one of the more slower guys on the feet. Very powerful, but not slick striking or anything like that. I'd honestly maybe give the striking edge to Patty probably. In that fight, grappling-wise, probably slightly Benoit. However, with Patty being a little more jiu-jitsu-based, very good scrambles and very good submissions, that's a winnable fight for Patty. I would maybe lean towards BSD in that fight, but still very approachable for Patty, especially if he needs to take 6 months off, bare minimum. It's a very winnable fight for Patty. Promotable fight over in Europe somewhere, probably the UK or even France. The crowd would be electric for that. That's a phenomenal fight night main event or a co-main event on a numbered event. And then Dan Hooker somehow gets it done against Benoit Saint Denis, which I think he has a better chance against Benoit than he did against Arman, which I guess that goes without saying necessarily. I don't know why I said necessarily at the end. But dude, if Dan Hooker sneaks back to BSD, That's a big fight. They already got the beef going. Paddy said he couldn't wrestle a rapist off his mother. Dan Hooker came back and just pretty much said, your friend killed yourself. Wah, wah. Pretty crazy stuff being thrown out between the two. So that is a big fight brewing. And who knows, maybe with just what Paddy wants to do, how the UFC approaches, whether or not with a BSD win over Hooker, they need to throw him in there against Sarukian or shoot him up the title fight ladder. Who knows? But even with a Dan Hooker loss, that's a big fight. And it's for sure going to be one of these two guys. Most likely, and what I would do is give the winner to Paddy. I think that makes the most sense. You can even justify a title fight after that, especially with a win streak like BSD's coming up upon. I think these are both winnable, approachable fights for Paddy's. Winnable and approachable for both of these guys as well. I'd favor Paddy over Hooker, honestly. But that's still a pretty close fight. Nonetheless, so two options of phenomenal fights. A big fight night main event with either of these guys, and a great co-main event. And a big co-main event in all reality, especially if you make that puppy 5 rounds, which, if I'm Paddy, dude, I'm weaponizing that cardio and going 5 rounds here on out. He looked solid and tough going 5 minutes, especially after getting dropped and brutalized by freaking Justin Gaethje, you know? So I like both these matchups. I think they're phenomenal fights, and I think the most likely way to go, winner gets Paddy. I think that works beautifully in the lightweight flow of everything right now. And then we get the ball rolling on this division that's been a little freaking stuffed up, you know? But, hey, good fights. Good fights, man. Moving on, if I can get this to work. Sugar Sean O'Malley. What are we going to do with you, Sugar Sean? Coming off not the most impressive performance of his career. However, he gets the job done against an elite fighter in Song Yadong. Young guy, powerful, explosive, quick. Had some turbulence there in the second round, but clearly gets the 29-28 decision on the judges' scorecards. What's next for Sean? I know he was clamoring for the Piotr Jan fight. Rematch, that is a certified hood classic. No doubt about it, right? He don't deserve it after a performance like that. I'm biased. I got the Sugar Happy Dad hat right here. I'm biased, but he don't deserve that. I know a lot of people may say Umar. We'll talk about Umar here in a second. I'll tell you why I didn't like that matchup. Here's what I'm thinking, though. You want that Jan fight with Sugar. You do. He doesn't get it immediately. He needs a fight in the meantime. Run the Jan Merab trilogy. Merab deserves it, even though that was a solidifying performance by Piotr. Umar for sure doesn't deserve it, and we'll talk about that here in a second. But you run this fight. We've been wanting to see it. And if you're the UFC, this is I would favor Sean in this matchup. This is a very winnable fight for O'Malley, okay? And not only that, it is a freaking amazing fight. Two elite strikers, two of the best strikers, barring Piotr Jan, in the bantamweight division, one of the most stacked divisions in the UFC at the moment. This is a co-main event on a big numbered event, all right? I doubt they would do a fight night with O'Malley. I just don't see that happening. I don't think he would like that. But this is a phenomenal co-main event. Make it 5 rounds, and it's a very winnable fight for O'Malley, right? He gets a win over Sandhagen. Okay, that's 2 wins in a row. You got the Piotr Jan rematch right there. Because I think Jan, after seeing that performance against Merab, what does Merab do differently to win that fight? Could make it closer, yes, but I think Piotr Jan's going to be the reigning bantamweight champion for the next 2 to 3 years. So, I guess it's risky. Merab could win that fight and whatnot, but you can't set a precedent with a performance like that O'Malley had over Yadong, that he gets the title shot. That cannot happen. So, you run this fight, certified banger, perfect co-main event slot, especially if you're Dana, you screwed up the matchmaking so much. What are we going to do? We didn't talk about that on Tuesday. Boom. Easy. Sean didn't take much damage. Sandhagen's been out for a little bit now. Dude, you do this like UFC 327, UFC 328. When would that be? You do this in April and May, dude. Quick turnaround. Maybe do co-main event of a Merab Piotr Jan headline. That'd be sick, man. And then Jan gets it done. Sean gets it done. Boom. That's your title fight. A sick rematch that Sean won on paper in the first time. But, Corey could spoil the whole party and get the win. But even if Corey ends up in a title shot against Piotr Jan, That was a phenomenal first fight they had. That'd be another great fight, even though I think Piotr would deal with Sandhagen more easily, and he already has more easily dealt with Corey Sandhagen compared to Sugar Sean O'Malley. However, man, like any fight between those three guys with Piotr, Sean, Corey, Merab, I'm not a Merab hater, but like you're not like Merab is fighting. This is gonna be epic, you know what I mean. And I know a lot of people would be like, "What about Umar? What about Umar? What about the Mountain Dwellers?" I'll tell you what he's gonna do. Ramadan, dude. I see the word Ramadan on my Twitter X timeline. I know we ain't seen these guys for a while. And I know he's like, I'm going to stay active. Khabib saying it, blah, 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 blah. That's great. I hope he does. And after a performance against Daverson that he had, bro does not deserve a title shot. That was pitiful. You could have finished him easily. You had a man defeated before he stepped in the octagon with you. And you pitter-pattered him on the feet. And when you did have top control, you just stuck your forearm in his face. Umar, elite fighter, one of the best in the world, doesn't deserve a title shot. So he will be facing Ramadan, all right? Fasting does suck. I do it. Praise God. The Christian one. But, Jesus Christ. He will be facing Ramadan next. But, will he win? I don't know. What happens if you lose Ramadan? I don't know. I haven't read that book, all right? But I don't know when it is. All right, I really have no clue. But I hear the word Ramadan on the Twitter timeline. I know these guys ain't gonna be in the octagon, but he's legit about staying active. You just beat a washed up Figueiredo. We pretty much knew Figueiredo was washed up. But even though if Figueiredo came in there in a much better form than he was, I still think Umar would have blitzed him. And I wouldn't call it a blitzing, but it was a dominant performance by Umar. But he doesn't. He's already fought Corey. If you do the Sugar Sean fight soon, that's cool. That's a good fight. I would favor Umar. But I don't think it makes sense, really. Especially with what Piotr is probably Merab Trilogy is what we're looking at. Or I feel like we would have already heard rumblings of the Sean fight. Or maybe even the Umar fight. I could see the UFC pulling that out of their butt. But it's like, what do you do, right? With Umar, hasn't had the best performance. Sean's performance is a little better. They're going to probably favor Sean, even though they favor the Dagestanis quite a bit. But I think he faces Ramadan, right? But, you can do the Sugar Sean fight. And that's a good fight. And then whoever wins gets the next crack at the belt. Unless Merab beats Piotr. So that's why I'm kind of thinking you don't do the Umar-Sean fight. Because then you it keeps your options more free, matchmaking-wise. But if he is going to fight here pretty soon, or he needs another fight, because he doesn't deserve a title fight, no doubt. I think, I believe Amien's one of these guys as well. They could tag team Ramadan together, and then they could fight. Amien's on a win streak. I think he's very overrated. I don't think he's that good. I think Umar would school him. And I think you go ahead and make this matchup. I think Muslims or whatever don't like to fight each other. But I think it's kind of different. It's either you're like Eastern Muslim, like a real freaking deal, or you're the Canadian Muslim, and they're kind of like, you're still gay. You're still gay. You're from Canada. So you're still gay, so we can fight. But I feel like this would be a fight. Amy would be like, oh, to fight Umar Nurmagomedov is such an honor, and whatever the Ariel Helwani doppelganger likes to say. I don't know why I hate on Amian so much. I just don't like his style. I think he fights, he's good, but I don't know. I believe he's 6 or 5 in division. Umar, I don't think he deserves, and really anybody above him, there is nobody above him. He's number 2. It's just Merab and Piotr. After that fight, give him a young guy. Amian, beat Amian. You deserve a title shot. Amian, no matter, I could get into his wins, his win streak, whatnot, but dude's on a streak. Dude's a solid fighter. This is a solid matchup, too. I think it'd be a pretty interesting fight. Amian kind of has some skill sets that I think maybe would give Nurmagomedov some problems. Smart guy, smart octagon, IQ type of guy as well, but, they can hit Ramadan up together, and they can fight afterwards. Ramadan. Moving on. Oh, crap, I forgot to put the transition on this. But this is the last one anyways. This is what I think you do with Jean Silva, man. He did take some solid strikes from Arnold Allen. It was a solid fight, really fun. Good performance from John Silva. Arnold Allen, he's a tough nut to crack, that guy. I was pulling for him, but John Silva, he's nasty. Yair Rodriguez needs to get off his butt. He does nothing. He's one of the worst top 5 ranked guys in the UFC. Elite striker. He's really not that good, though. He's really not. Like, who's he beat recently? Patricio Pitbull? Unk. Josh Emmett? Unk. Brian Ortega? That guy. You never know what you're getting out of T-City, dude. He doesn't really beat anyone elite. He ducked Diego Lopez. The last time he fought was UFC 314 when Diego Lopez... John Silva's fought, I think, twice since then. Or 3 times since then. Or I think it's 2 now. But you see what I'm saying. Feed him to John. Let John take care of him. I know there's Aljo out there, but I don't think he would take this fight. And Aljo, he's not going to fight down in the rankings, I don't think, unless they force him to fight like Yusuf Zalal or something. But John, after beating a guy higher in the rankings than him, I think he deserves a shot. Yair Rodriguez is sitting right there at number 4 in the rankings. Favorable matchup for John Silva as well. I bet the UFC would like to get him a title shot. He brings a lot of eyes to the sport. Strong fan base. Entertaining guy. I hope they don't sneak in a matchup with him and Volk somehow. I would hate that with a passion. It would make me stress quite a bit. But nonetheless, I think this is a perfect fight to make. You're doing John a little bit of favors here. But I don't think after being the 10th ranked guy, beating Arnold Allen, who was around top 5, he deserves to fight up in the rankings, I think. Yair Rodriguez coming off a win against Patricio Pitbull and just sitting on his butt doing nothing. John Silva. You get John Silva, man. Lerone Murphy and Movsar Evloev most likely headlining the UFC London card, which I believe will be in March. You have Volkanovski and Diego Lopez taking place this weekend. And that pretty much leaves Yair Rodriguez up there at the top. You got Aljo sitting around at number 5. But like I said, I don't think Aljo would take this fight. He's a touchy-feely guy. And I don't hate Aljo. He's a phenomenal fighter. But he's a bit of a diva. He puts his emotions. I wouldn't be surprised to see Aljo matched up with like Yusuf or something, which is kind of dumb. But then I think Aljo takes that because he thinks it's very winnable, which it probably is. But that's what I think should be done for John Silva. I know that was a long way of getting there, but the featherweight division's stacked. This is a fun matchup too. This is co-main event worthy as well. Big UFC Fight Night headliner as well. This would be a phenomenal fight. So nobody can really complain about that matchmaking. It was great by me. So yeah, y'all know what I'm saying. But that is it for today's video, guys. Just a look ahead for the week. Today is Tuesday. This video will be uploaded today. Tonight, I'm going to work on my UFC 325's picks and predictions for this weekend's numbered event, Volkanovski Diego Lopez 2. That should come out tomorrow, Thursday. We will have, of course, the live press conference reaction. And then Friday, most likely, I'll make some type of news video about the UFC. Maybe what I kind of thought about the Paramount thing and like some things Ariel Helwani is saying. But yeah, if y'all have any like video ideas, any topics y'all want me to hit up in the MMA space, please let me know in the comments below. Comment below whether you agree, disagree, or have any other matchups you think would be better in the comments below. Please like this video, I'm begging you. Please subscribe to the channel, okay? And if you've watched this video all the way through, thank you. I love you. And guys, that is it for today's video. I will see y'all tomorrow. Christ is king.